Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar Magic the Gathering video. This is going to be part 4 of my series of videos going over all of the cards from the Avatar set. So in this one we're going to go over the red cards from the TLA set. So we're on the 4th color, we just have green to go, then we can get into the multicolor and the rest of the cards after that. But yeah, we'll jump straight in here. I will say overall, red I think looks pretty good. I think firebending in general looks like a very fun mechanic, and just it feels like it's really consistently placed throughout red. And maybe for beginners, because of the way it works with the kind of timing within the combat step, it's maybe not the go-to play for perhaps at a pre-release for someone brand new. But I also think you get your head around it somewhat quickly. But we'll talk about that as we go through. First red card is Porcupine, 2 and a red, so 3 mana for a 2/2 Porcupine. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. That's nice for a common, just the fact that you get benefits just from doing stuff you would usually want to do within red, which is, yeah, you're probably going to play a bunch of damage dealing spells, and then this just continues to get bigger and bigger. Kind of like, you know, Avatar Enthusiast in white. It's just like, yeah, this is a basic kind of card that will just work, and your opponent might have to deal with at a certain point. And yeah, cool hybrid animal, the Porcupine, just to have it here. Next source is a sorcery, Boomy Bash, 4 mana for a common. Choose one. It deals damage equal to the number of lands you control to target creature, or destroy target land, creature, or non-basic land. So the first one is cool because it kind of grows with you. So by the time you're able to play this, it's going to do at least 4 damage to something, which is going to probably kill something. And then the other option is very interesting because it actually allows you to destroy lands, which is not a common line of text. So this one specifically allows you to destroy other earthbound things, which is actually nice. And then it does allow you to destroy non-basic lands. So you can't destroy a basic plains or island or something like that, but there are dual lands, and there's a rare cycle of lands as well in the set. So there are options for this that could actually work out well, but the flexibility I think makes it pretty good overall. It also highlights that, of course, green red is a bit of an earthbender dynamic, and it plays into this card as well. So next up is an Enchantment Saga. It's an uncommon, 4 mana for the Cave of Two Lovers. So the first phase, you create 2 1/1 white ally creature tokens. Second phase is that you get to search your library for a mountain or a cave card, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle, and then you get to Earthbend 3. So unlike the legendary double-faced sagas, this one is just one-sided. It doesn't flip over at the end. This is more what they usually do. But this, of course, tells the story of Oma and Shu, both on the card in the art, but also with the flavor of the effects. So phase 1, you create Oma and Shu. Then you basically get to search your library for effectively the location where their story happens. It's a secret tunnel through the mountain, so you get to search for the mountain or the secret tunnel, which is the cave. There is a secret tunnel card that is a cave. That's what you'd be searching for there. And then you get to Earthbend because they learned from the Badger Moles how to Earthbend in the right way. So very fun card. And the only question you kind of really have about it is, why is it in red? Well, like I said, red-green is an earthbending kind of double color pairing, because this is where like a lot of the boomy stuff is. Toph, Earth Rumble is in here. So a lot of your kind of powerful earthbenders, but not like the villainous earthbenders like the Dai Li, are in that color pairing. Next up, Combustion Man, 3 red for an uncommon human assassin. It's a legendary creature. It's a 4/6, so it's already pretty good. And then whenever Combustion Man attacks, destroy target permanent unless its controller has Combustion Man deal damage to them equal to his power. This is really good. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating it, but this seems really, really good as an uncommon. I'm surprised this isn't a rare or maybe even higher. The only thing I suppose is in red, it's a little bit later on, but with firebending, I suppose you can actually get it a bit earlier. It is good, and then it's just whenever he attacks, you can destroy target permanent. Note it says permanent and not non-land permanent, so you can actually target your opponent's lands. This is a card that could destroy their lands. Now they're obviously going to want to protect their lands, so you will start doing damage to them over time, and he's 4 power. I guess you could boost him up if you need to, but this just feels like something your opponent immediately has to deal with. Sure, there are theoretically situations where, because it doesn't say you may destroy target permanent, it might end up forcing a situation where you have to destroy something on your own field. But again, that requires you to clear your opponent's field and leave them with no lands, which isn't really going to happen. But still, I like it, and it definitely gets across the flavor of Combustion Man, of like, he needs to be dealt with because he is so powerful, so destructive, and I think that's very cool. Next is Combustion Technique. So this is Combustion Bending as a card. It is 2 mana for an instant lesson. It's an uncommon. It deals damage equal to 2 plus the number of lesson cards in your graveyard to target creature. If you kill something with it, exile it instead. So it is at least 2 damage, because it can be 2 plus 0, but it can get up as high as you need to depending on when you play it in the game. So it can do 3, 4, maybe 5 later on. It's maybe not going to go crazy high, but it's a nice instant lesson, and this is what you want. It's a access to lesson. It's another red card that's going to deal damage, and that will come into play with some of this other stuff, as we will see. This card does have an alternate art, so it's part of one of the scene cards here. Specifically, this is one of the uncommon ones. So this is the overall scene card that involves Combustion Technique. So you can see Combustion Technique is the top left card of this scene. All the other cards are going to be multicolor in this one, so this is the only monocolor one, just showing the top corner. So pretty cool, and it's maybe not going to be the rarest alternate art to get. Next, Crescent Island Temple. This is the red shrine, so 4 mana for a shrine, and this one is all about 1/1 red monk creature tokens. So when it comes in, you create a 1/1 red creature token that's a monk with prowess, so it gains power when you cast non-creatures. You want to do that in red with all the damage dealing spells. But then when another one comes into play, you also create a red monk creature token. So this is leaning into a different token type that's meant to be sort of the fire sages, but I guess also maybe a little bit of the ancient sun warriors, which is, I think, kind of cool. But yeah, that's the red shrine, which in limited or kind of basic formats, I'm not sure you're necessarily going to put a full shrine deck together, but they seem to do at least a little bit on their own, because recasting them is kind of a thing in the set. But anyway. Next, Cunning Maneuver. 2 mana for an instant. Target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Create a clue token. So that's nice. It's just a basic combat trick where, in this case, it gives you mostly power, only a little bit of toughness. So it's mostly here to allow you to, I think, quickly take out something. It could save one of your things, but I think it's mostly there to help you take out something. And then the clue token is a nice bonus to try and get some card draw going in red, which is, that's maybe one of the weaknesses of red kind of across the board, is how much card draw can you get. You're going to generate so much mana, but you have the stuff in your hand to actually play stuff. Well, clue tokens is one way to get that, and so I actually think this one might end up being quite usable in a red deck. But anyway, next we have Deserter's Disciple. 2 mana for a 2/2 creature, a human rebel ally. With tap, another target creature you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So yeah, this is Che. Once again, another one of these situations where it is a named character not being named, because it's not really a legendary creature, but it is cool that he gets a card here. And yeah, this one is interesting because I think one of the things you almost forget when it comes to firebending is that you do have to attack to get the mana. Combat still has to happen, and your opponent still gets a chance to block. Sure, you generate the mana and can use it immediately, but you are putting your creature at risk against the blockers. So this guy, Che, allows you to at least get something basic through, so you can maybe safely get that mana, and that's kind of cool. It could be the way to quickly get that last chunk of damage through as well. So again, a usable card. Next is a mythic rare. This is Fated Firepower. It's X red for a mythic rare enchantment with flash. So you can play it on your opponent's turn at instant speed, or during combat and surprise them. This enchantment enters with X fire counters on it. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus an amount of damage equal to the number of fire counters on this enchantment instead. So, a lot of text to just basically explain the idea that your creatures will basically do more damage, and your spells that do damage will also do more damage. So if you play this for 4 mana, it just means pretty much everything you do will do 1 extra damage. If you play it for 8, everything will do 5 extra damage. And I think the second you get this probably to about maybe X's 3, you're really threatening your opponent, assuming your board state is good enough to kind of really overall threaten them. But it's a cool card. I think it's maybe more for a deck you can truly construct around it to properly take advantage of it. But the flavor is really nice, with the idea that this is meant to be Sozin's Comet enhancing Iroh in this case, and that's also shown on the alternate arts of this one. So this one also has a scene art, so you can see here Faded Firepower has this art, and this is from the book 1 scene card. So this is just the 4 cards together. So I think we'd already covered Crashing Wave before. Here's Faded Firepower, and we're going to get shortly to Fire Nation attacks. So this one is coming together fairly nicely. So there's that. Next, we also have a elemental frame treatment for this one here for Faded Firepower. I really like the switch up here of it's not just like, say, Iroh in a different pose, in a different art style. They changed the approach of the card to being more about Aang and Zuko learning the true way of firebending from Ran and Shaw. That's another way they kind of enhanced their firepower, not just about the comet. Love this art treatment, and this card in particular I do really, really want to get. Next is Fire Nation Attacks, which is the card I just showed you. It does have a scene art one, and this is the bottom left of that card. So yeah, what this does, it is 5 mana for an instant. It's an uncommon. Create 2 red soldier creature tokens with firebending 1, and it also has flashback for 9 mana. So that's pretty nice. You know, you get 4 power on board, and both of those tokens will later be able to firebend 1 to generate you a little bit of mana. And then you can actually play this card again later on, because flashback is you may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost and then exile it. And again, hopefully you have a bunch of firebenders on the board. That flashback cost, even though it's quite high, 9 mana, it's helped by the fact that, you know, you already have these 2 firebender soldiers on the board, and hopefully a little bit more. That might reduce the cost by half just by having a bunch of firebenders. It's pretty nice overall. And of course, a card they had to do, as you can see with the flavor text. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. So that's nice. Next up is Fire Nation Cadets, 1 mana for a 1/2 human soldier. It is a common. This creature has firebending 2 as long as there's a lesson card in your graveyard. So that's pretty nice on a 1 mana thing, the fact that it can, with just a small amount of setup, 1 lesson card being played, activate firebending 2. So early on, if you get that going, like if you do turn 1 this, turn 2 like a 2 mana spell or something like that, and then firebending 2 is on from that point on, that's kind of nice. And then it has a built-in activated ability for 2 mana. This creature gets +1, +0 until end of turn. So you'll see some of the firebending cards have this kind of feature on them. They have their firebending effect, but then they'll also have an effect that effectively their firebending can pay for. So that is something that you can do multiple times if you have extra mana. So you can pump this thing up as big as you need it to. But at the very least, the idea is it turns your 1 mana thing into a 2/2 at a certain point. But I suppose later on, you're mostly just hoping to get a decent amount of mana out of it. So nice common, I think, for the kind of firebending style deck. Next is the Fire Nation Raider, 4 mana for a 4/2 common human soldier with Raid. When this creature enters, if you attack this turn, create a clue token. So again, like I said, with the previous Raid cards and some of the other videos, when the turn you play this, you probably want to play it in your post-combat main phase. So that way you've attacked already in the turn, it comes down and immediately gets the effect. Because it doesn't need to attack, it's just you need to have attacked as the player. So your other creatures can have attacked, this doesn't have to. And you get a clue token, which again is the kind of important card draw that I think Red needs a little bit of. So that's worth noting. Fire Sages is up next, another uncommon. 2 mana for a 2/2 human cleric. Firebending 1, and it has a activated effect for 3 mana, so 1 red, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So it's kind of like an enhanced version of the Cadet where, okay, a little bit more mana, but you get that permanent +1/+1 counter, and again, that is repeatable. You can do that at instant speed once you generate your firebending. Kind of nice, and again, it's just that kind of simple effect of that can start to make this thing pretty big. It's a place to put extra mana if you end up with a lot of extra mana, so I like it. The right way, I think, to do the kind of Fire Sages overall. Next, Firebender Ascension. So we've seen the Ascensions for some of the other elements. Now we get the Fire one. 2 mana for a rare enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a 2/2 red soldier creature token with Firebending 1. Okay, so that's the classic 2/2 token. You do get some firebending. But then, whenever a creature you control attacking causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger, put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So the intent of this card, what's designed into it, is that firebending triggers the effect. Firebending is when you attack, you trigger the mana generation. So by the time you get this up to 4, the idea is that something with Firebending 2 will actually get Firebending 2 and then immediately another Firebending 2. So you generate more mana. And other effects would include Combustion Man. Note the wording on Combustion Man. Whenever Combustion Man attacks, this thing happens. It is a triggered ability on attack. It's worded in the same way that the firebending is worded, which is, whenever this creature attacks, add mana. That's the effect of firebending. They are the effects that you are looking for with Firebender Ascension to get the quest counters. So for the most part, it's going to come from firebending, but note that, say, Combustion Man also works with it as well. And if you get him going with this, like triggering his effect multiple times, that's kind of cool. Yeah, and so this can start really getting going here. This can generate you a lot of mana as well. So I like that one as just a engine type card to kind of build around overall. This one does have a scene card as well. This one is actually from the 9 card scene here. So you can see that's this card here on the side. And you'll also note that there are 2 other red cards as part of this scene. So the Last Agni Kai and Sozin Comet are also part of the 9 card scene, but we will get to them later. Next up is Firebending Student. It is 2 mana for a rare. It's a 1/2. It's a human monk with prowess. And also Firebending X, where X is this creature's power. This is a really interesting card. It's like simple, but actually does quite a lot, and it's very flexible. So you play your other spells, it gets bigger. It getting bigger makes you generate more mana, and that just kind of keeps rolling. Then that mana can be used to trigger the prowess again to make it kind of bigger. You know, it's kind of cool the way it overall works. So I quite like this one, and it's doing kind of exactly what you want to do in red with the firebending stuff as well. So the other point here is that it is a human monk. This is not meant to be sort of like a Fire Nation soldier in training. It's just a kid training in firebending, which is interesting. This one has 2 alternate arts. The first one here is the Elemental Frame, where an Ancient Sun Warrior character is depicted as the firebending student. Really like the look of that one. And then you also get this promo card here. This specifically is the buy a box promo. Now, that doesn't mean you get this. It doesn't mean it's like a box topper type card. It just means that if you buy a box from a WPN store, so like a store that like is officially kind of with Wizards, you should get the promo. It does mean I think that this will be a little bit more available because it is just the buy a box promo, but just to be aware of that. Interestingly, with the art, there is a little bit of debate over the idea of like, is this meant to be the character Anji from the headband or not? The argument for is that her hairstyle kind of looks like it, and again, it's a character who sort of looks like that positioned in a kind of Firebending Academies type situation. The argument against is that maybe the character looks a little bit older than Anji, and then we never saw Anji wearing this specific outfit, and it's a little bit weird in a way that like with a licensed set, they take a character that we know of and design them in a different outfit, which is interesting. But I think it's maybe just meant to be maybe slightly inspired by something along those lines, rather than it absolutely being confirmed to be Anji. Again, it's one of those ones, if you wanted to make anything of this, you'd have to get confirmation specifically that it is her, because it would actually be the reveal that Anji is a firebender. So, you know, to make of that what you will. I don't really care too much about it either way, but because I don't think the intent of the Magic set is to overly kind of reveal new things. I don't think that was really a factor almost anywhere in the set. There's a few things where you can see what maybe some of the more generic like support characters for the armies of like the Southern Water Tribe. You can see, oh, there's a leader character we didn't see before, but that's I think about it. But anyway, we'll move on to how to start a riot, which is 3 mana for a instant lesson at common. Target creature gains menace until end of turn. Creature target players controls gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Okay, so everything gets boosted by +2 power, no toughness, and then one thing gets menace, so it has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures. So it's just going to make that turn's combat very tricky for your opponent. And again, another Boiling Rock card, another Chit Sang card, really like that. Hey, Riot, that's how you start a Riot. Next up, Iroh's Determination. It's an uncommon. 2 mana for a sorcery lesson. Choose one of these. It deals 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls, or it deals 4 damage to target creature. So, like the kind of different modes that this has, if you're going up against a token deck, well, this can clear the board of a lot of tokens, especially those 1/1 ally tokens, if they're not like boosted at all. Or you can just take out something that's pretty decent for just 2 mana as well, and it's a lesson. Pretty nice, and of course it's Iroh showing you his breath of fire, which is cool. Next up is Zhong the Deserter. 3 mana for a 2/3 human rebel ally, uncommon. It is a legendary creature. Firebending 1, and then it has an exhaust ability, so you can only use this once. You pay 3 mana and you put a +1/+1 counter on Zhong. Then when you next cast a lesson spell this turn, copy it and you may choose new targets for the copy. Very interesting effect. So he generates 1 mana himself to, I guess, help pay for his exhaust ability. When you do, you then still have to separately cast a lesson, but you then do get to copy it. So I suppose the idea here is to get the advantage from this is that you do get the +1/+1 counter, but like you probably want to try and cast an expensive lesson, because otherwise, especially because you can only use it once, you probably want it to hit as hard as it can. And I don't think we've seen too many lessons so far that are kind of expensive necessarily. Let me just scan through what we've went through already with this. So what are the lessons? That's a 2 mana lesson. This is a 1 mana lesson, though it does have kicker, I suppose. How to start a riot, which we just went over, is 3 mana. So that might be something you want to do. That allows you to give something else menace, and then it'd be another +2 boost. So that's interesting. But yeah, fun card. Maybe a little bit overly fair in the sense that if they let you use that multiple times, would it be super crazy? maybe the exhaust is mostly there for like, actually that would maybe be a bit of a broken effect in Commander or something, but either way, cool that Zhong gets a card that actually seems to have that idea of, I think one of the big Azulas at the end has another kind of copy spell ability. That's something they seem to want to give to the high-end firebenders. But anyway, next up we have Jet Brainwashing, 1 mana for a sorcery uncommon with Kicker 3. So again, it will have 2 effects here. So for 1, target creature can't block this turn if you also pay the Kicker cost, so 4 mana overall. Gain control of that creature until the end of turn, untap it, and it gains haste until end of turn, and you create a clue token. So just for 1, I guess you get the clue token as well, because it is a separate line of text. So you get to take control of a creature for the 4 mana. That's nice. If you're playing more of a sacrifice thing, you can use the creature you just took to sacrifice. Typically, you just want to attack into your opponent and force your opponent to either basically take the damage from their own creature or try to kill their own creature, which they are going to get back at the end of turn, and that's always a bit of an awkward situation. But I think a cool card for the Jet Brainwashing overall. Then we go to Last Agni Kai. So this is 2 mana for an instant. This is target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. If the creature the opponent controls is dealt excess damage this way, add that much red mana. Until end of turn, you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. So this is quite interesting. You do have to very much, in this case, keep track of your mana. So the card itself, of course, is just a fight. It's 2 mana to have, you know, your creature fight target creature, which is effectively, you know, they just exchange kind of power against each other. So it's kind of like to have one of your own creatures kill the opponent, and that's what you want to do to get the effect. You want to hit something kind of pretty hard, and all the excess damage is mana that you generate. Now, you will not lose this mana, which is now kind of generated and kind of out there between phases, but it's only until end of turn. So realistically, if you use it as the start of your turn, okay, you get to keep the mana into combat, you get to keep the mana after combat, but also that affects other firebending abilities. So if you use this and then have a bunch of firebending effects go off during your combat, all that mana also doesn't have to be spent during combat. So you can wait and actually maybe play creatures then in the post-combat main phase right at the end of your turn, which is pretty nice. So that's something a bunch of the kind of more higher end red cards will be wanting to do, is like the Ozai card makes, I think has an even more permanent one of this, where like you don't lose mana between turns as well, which just generates a pool of mana that you can use, which is interesting. But yeah, this card does have that Last Agni Kai alternate art, as we kind of went over here. So you can see this one goes in the middle of the bottom between Azula and Zuko. And yeah, that's everything I think I've shown here is available in collector boosters or play boosters. I don't think we've seen a card yet that is exclusive to the other stuff. But anyway, up next is The Legend of Roku. So here is our Roku saga that's going to flip, and we will get, of course, Avatar Roku. But the first side here, 4 mana for a saga. The first phase of the saga is exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play these cards. Again, you do have to pay for them, but just gives you access to more cards, which in red, again, is nice, especially if you're at a point where you are generating a lot of mana. Next turn, you get add 1 mana of any color, which is a bit of an interesting effect. It's just 1 mana, but it is any color. So I think that's mostly just for like, yeah, maybe in the rogue, it's the deck you play this in, you definitely want to have another color probably. And then the third phase, of course, is transform it into Avatar Roku. So it's a 4/4 Avatar. Firebending 4, very nice, and then it has an activated ability for 8. Create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying and firebending 4. So that is Fang, of course. You bring a Fang onto the board, 4/4 flying dragon that also has firebending 4. And then the idea is just each turn you just keep doing that. You once you get the first dragon, then each turn after that, assuming you keep them on board, there's your 8 mana with just basically 2 firebending 4s to create another dragon token the next turn, and the next turn, and the next turn. And yeah, that's going to ramp up quite quickly. I like the card. It's probably not the most amazing card because of how long it takes to get here, and maybe the middle phase is not super interesting, but still cool. This one does have a borderless alternate art by Barbara Rosiak. Love the art here. I think this looks really, really fantastic, especially actually this side of the more peaceful moment of an avatar in the avatar state. Really, really good stuff in my mind. Next up is Lightning Strike. 2 mana for a pretty simple card. It's an instant. It just deals 3 damage to any target. That can be your opponent directly or one of their creatures, so that is nice, a little bit more flexible. And especially if you get this with like Faded Firepower, that's a really nice way to do a bit more damage. But yeah, this is perfect for what Firebending especially wants to do. It's just, yeah, flexible damage. That's nice. Next, May Jaded Edge is 2 mana for a 1/3 Human Noble Uncommon with Prowess. So she gets a boost for non-creature spells, which you want to do. Exhaust 3, put a double strike counter on May. So double strike just means, it basically means the character has first strike, but then they also deal damage at the normal timing as well. So May will attack, she'll be a 1/3, she'll do her 1 damage for first strike, and then also do damage normally, but she'll also take damage at that point. So kind of nice, you know, when you activate the Prowess, she's a 2/4 for 2, which is actually pretty good. And if you can boost her in any other way, like, she's quite good. So nice. This has the kind of, I suppose, a villainous May who is not an ally. So you can see here she is in Omashu, and she first fights Team Avatar. That is nice to see. Next up is the Mongoose Lizard. 6 mana for a 5/6 Mongoose Lizard. Common Menace. So it has to be blocked by at least 2 creatures. When it enters, it deals 1 damage to any target, and then it has Mountain Cycling too. So again, if you draw this very early on, you can just discard it and pay 2 to get a mountain if you need the land, and you're nowhere near casting this. It's pretty cool with the cycle of these kind of bigger creatures. The effect is not amazing, but it is, you know, 6 mana for a 5/6 Menace. That is good. Only dealing 1 damage when it comes in, but if you find any way to boost that, like with Faded Firepower or something, it can do something, I think. Next up, Price of Freedom. So 2 mana for an uncommon sorcery lesson. Destroy target artifact or land an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Draw a card. So this is land destruction here, which is interesting. Now, it immediately gives it back to your opponent. You get to draw a card. So, okay, interesting. So, even if you target an artifact, they still get to put a land onto the field. So, it's an interesting one about what exactly you want to do. And it is sorcery speed as well, so you have to make your decision kind of straight away. So I suppose the idea is you attempt to destroy one of their lands that is untapped, and you force them to either play whatever they were planning to play immediately, or just, oh, I don't have the mana to do what I was planning to do in combat or whatever. So that's nice. It's flexible. Giving lands to your opponent, especially if you don't destroy one of their lands with it, is not something you want to do, but interesting enough. And it's obviously meant to be the idea of like Jet attempting to destroy that town from the episode Jet. Next is Ran and Shaw. 5 mana for a rare 4/4 dragon legendary creature. Flying and firebending 2. When Ran and Shaw enter, if you cast them and there are 3 or more dragon and or lesson cards in your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of Ran and Shaw, except it's not legendary. And then for 4, dragons you control get +2/+0. This is nice. So yeah, the 4/4 flyer with firebending 2. And then you get the other one, because it's like 2 creatures in one. But if you actually want the 2 dragons separately, you do need to have dragons or lessons in your graveyard. Now, I believe the only other dragon card, at least in the main set, that isn't this card, is it's like a blue-red dragon like hybrid animal, so it's not a normal dragon. There's not a ton of dragons in the set, so you probably would want to either play multiple copies of Ran and Shaw and have one of them in there, but mostly you're going for lessons here because these are also, I guess, old masters. It's a little bit of a build up, of course, but I guess with the amount of probably instants and sorceries that you're playing that are doing damage in red, you'll get there eventually. And in that case, you're getting 2 4/4 flyers with firebending 2. And then, of course, each of them are going to have the boost effect. So, you know, you can do dragons you control get +2/+0. If you have enough mana, you can keep using that. It's kind of cool because you're boosting both of them. I like the card. I think it's a fun way to do Ran and Shaw. These also have a field note alternate art here, which I think is really cool looking. Next up is Redirect Lightning, which is an instant lesson. It's a rare. 1 red mana, but as an additional cost to cast the spell, you have to pay 5 life or pay 2 mana. Change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. So, okay, the restriction on this one obviously is that like it has to be a single target spell, but you then get to change the target of that realistically to one of your opponent's creatures. And the fact that it costs so little, like as in like it's 1 mana, but you can choose to pay a little bit of life or for 3 mana. And you probably want to do that because this can really open up the game for you if you do actually redirect something quite strong. People seem very hyped about this card to the point where it looks like this is going to be definitely the most expensive rare in the set. We'll see how much it settles on because we're still kind of pre-release of the set, but people really seem to think that this is a pretty nice card, and I tend to agree with that. Art is very nice as well. We also have a elemental frame version of this card, so this again I think will be somewhat expensive, but you can get these from play boosters as well. It's available in foil and non-foil and in collector boosters. Yeah, love the art choices on all these elemental frames. Next, Rough Rhino Cavalry. 4 and a red, so 5 mana for a 5/5 human mercenary, firebending 2, exhaust ability for 8. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature and it gains trample until end of turn. Okay, so you pay 5 for this. It's a 5/5. When you attack then, probably next turn you put your land down, you're up to kind of about like 6 mana at least. Firebend 2, that gets you the other 2 mana. That's the 8 mana that you need to make it a 7/7 with trample. For a common, it's doing a decent bit. The problem with red, I suppose, is like, what is this like good enough to be one of your kind of top end creatures versus this from say like Combustion Man? It's doing kind of what you want to do. I think it's pretty good in general. I think red seems quite good in the set. We'll see how it is in practice. I think a lot of it's going to come down to sort of like how easy firebending is to get off. Just in the sense of like you do have to send your thing into attack, and are they going to block it, and how often will you feel like, oh, if I'm not sending my firebending creature in to get that mana, am I not doing anything? It's an interesting one. Next, Solstice Revelations, 3 mana for an instant lesson, uncommon. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is less than the number of mountains you control. If you don't cast that card this way, put it into your hand and it has flashback for 7. So you have to get to a non-land card, then you can cast it for free if you have that many mountains. If that spell's mana value is less than the number of mountains you control. So it has to be less than, it can't be the same as. So by the time you're casting this, I suppose like you have at least 3 mana, maybe 4 mana. So if you, let's say you have 4 mountains in play and you do this, you're looking to hit something that is 1, 2, or 3 mana off the top. If you get something that's higher, you still get it into your hand, but you don't get to play it immediately. But then you can play it later. It's more expensive when it's later, but you will have more mana and be more likely to hit something that's kind of notable there. Interesting. This is one of those cards where like it's all about, timing, in a way, getting lucky with what you pull off the top, but could be interesting. Next, Sozin's Comet is 5 mana for a mythic rare sorcery. Each creature you control gains firebending 5 until end of turn. And it has Foretell for 2 and a red. foretell means that you can basically you foretell it for that cost, and then later you can pay 2. Sorry, I have that backwards. Sorry, it's you pay 2, you exile this, and then you pay the rest of the cost later to have it actually like activate. Basically, it's interesting. It's very flavorful with the foretelling of Sozin's Comet. You know it's coming. You're telling your opponent, I'm going to do this at some point, but when will I do it? The other reason that it's sort of useful is just that it prepares you even better, I guess, for the turn you actually activate it, so you have the most mana possible. You're not wasting a lot of your mana just to cast Sozin's Comet for the full price. Instead, the turn you activate it, you're only paying the 3, and then theoretically you're generating maybe 20 mana or something like that from a bunch of creatures you control attacking in. Now, this card, in terms of how good it is, completely depends on what you have to play from your hand that requires that much mana. Now, again, we've seen a lot of different activated effects of like whether they be exhaust abilities. There's ones that you can use multiple times. So there's a way where you can like, the Fire Sages just get +1/+1 counters, and like one of them has like gains +1/+0 until end of turn. You can do all that stuff to bump it up in power if you absolutely need to, and then it allows you, if you do have cards in hand, to play all your spells basically that you need to at instant speed, and it should do quite well for you. If you don't have cards that really do much, this card isn't really doing much for you, because it's the definition of like just making a bunch of mana, and that doesn't always mean you win, because you still have to cast other cards to make stuff happen. So interesting stuff. But anyway, next we have the alternate art. This has 2 alternate arts actually. So the first one here is the scene art, Sozin's Comet. Again, this is from the 9 card scene, as you can see here. Sozin's Comet is up in the corner, so that's cool. And it also has a battle pose card. So this is not a neon ink battle pose, it's just a normal battle pose, but you can see here, this is the idea of, the comet in the background, the fire symbol there, and I think it is actually depicting Ozai, because it has the goatee, which is interesting. So that's kind of nice, especially I guess in foil. I think this one probably will look pretty nice, more so than maybe going for the non-foil, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up is the Tigerdillo. So 2 mana for an uncommon. It's a 4/3. So okay, there's going to be a downside here, I'm guessing. That's a lot of power for just 2 mana. Cat Armadillo. This creature can't attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater. So power 4 or greater is basically what the green-red dynamic, I think, is about. They want you to have biggish things on the board. And so, that's how you activate the Tigerdillo. It can't attack or block, so you have to have something to make that. And it's another creature, so that's cool. Makes sense. Nice card. Might not be for every red deck, though, certainly. If you are staying more low to the ground, that could be a tricky one. Next up is the Treetop Freedom Fighters. It's 3 mana for a 2/1 human rebel ally for basically the rest of Jet's Freedom Fighters here. So pictured on the card, you can see here you have Pipsqueak, Smellerbee, the Duke, Sneers, and Longshot. So that's nice. Haste. Okay, we haven't actually seen much haste. Is interesting because I guess if they had too much haste, you'd be maybe generating mana too quickly. So because Firebending is here, they probably don't want to give too much stuff. Haste. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So here's maybe more of a white-red card, because the Jet stuff is white-red primarily. So that seems nice. Haste as something. I think that's kind of the way they're doing the non-bender, non-fire army kind of side of red, is kind of giving it haste. Anyway, we move on to Twin Blades, which is 3 mana for an equipment, an uncommon flash. Okay. When this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains double strike until end of turn. Equipped creature also gets +1/+1, and the equip cost is 2. But obviously, built into the card is a free equip immediately. So that's nice. And again, it's something you can do with firebending because it does have flash. So if you generate enough mana with firebending, you can flash this in immediately to make something have double strike plus a bit of extra power. And again, that can turn combat in your favor immediately by just quickly dropping in the twin blades. Next up, Ty Lee, Artful Acrobat, 3 mana for a 3/2, legendary creature, human performer. It's an uncommon. So this is basically meant to be our kind of quote-unquote villain Ty Lee when she's with kind of Team Azula. Prowess, like the May also had, so boosted by non-creature spells. Whenever Ty Lee attacks, you may pay 1. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. So, okay. The other card was about tapping something down for like the rest of the game, basically, as long as Ty Lee's on the board. This one is allowing, is stopping something from blocking. So it's all about her sort of incapacitating other creatures in different ways. So just clearing the path, which again is something you want to do in red. Clear the path for your firebending cards to activate as regularly as possible. This just gets one thing out of the way, but it might be the one big thing that you get out of the way. And then, yeah, with Prowess, she's going to go up to being a 4/3. And that's kind of nice. That's actually a threat on combat as well. So, nice, usable. Not as kind of fancy, perhaps, as the blue version of her, but still, it's cool. We have a vehicle here in red. So 2 in a red for the vehicle. It's a War Balloon. It's a 4/3, flying. Pay 1, put a fire counter on this vehicle. As long as this vehicle has 3 or more fire counters, it's an artifact creature. And crew 3. So you can choose to crew this for the 3. That's tapping creatures up to 3 power to kind of crew the vehicle. Or you can gradually, or basically all at once, put the counters you want on it to make it an artifact creature just by itself. That's cool. Very flexible card that you're probably going to get to use. Sometimes vehicles can be a little messy just because it's a lot of cards to kind of activate one card at times. So I think this is actually pretty good. There's not a ton of flyers in just straight up red, so it is cool to have this one here. Next up is a rare Wartime Protesters. It's 4 mana for a 4/4 human rebel ally with haste. So you can see kind of like in this case it's the rebellion here. Fire Nation citizens disagreeing with the war. So yeah, haste, and whenever another ally you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature and it gains haste until end of turn. So that's pretty good. It comes in a little late, maybe, considering where you want to maybe do most of your work as an ally deck. But because you probably will have at least a little bit of firebending, it probably gets in a bit earlier, perhaps. Maybe. Or actually, no. Because it's a creature, most of the time you won't be able to just bring this into play. But it depends on how you use your mana. Whenever another ally enters, they get boosted. Yeah, you can see what the red-white kind of stuff is definitely trying to do there. This is definitely going to be a nice piece in that deck specifically. And again, you know, some of them aren't allies in red. It's maybe not the heaviest color, but it's mostly there, I guess, for the white aspect of the deck to do that. This one also has an extended art. So extended arts are only available in collector boosters. They're not in play boosters, which is a kind of interesting choice. But yeah, that's there. Next up is the Yuyan Archers, 2 mana for a 3/1 human archer with reach. That just means it can block stuff with flying. When this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So 2 mana for a 3/1 reach, and discard, draw. That's nice. You know, again, with red, you don't have access to a ton of card draw, so this is one way to do that to a certain degree. But yeah, I think the Jumpstart Yuyan Archer card is a bit better than this, but it is just a common. Next up is Zhao, the Moonslayer. 2 mana for a 2/2 legendary creature, human soldier. It's a rare. 2/2 with menace. Okay, they're going to have trouble blocking him. Non-basic lands enter tapped. That's an interesting line of text. 7 mana, put a Conqueror counter on Zhao. As long as Zhao has a Conqueror counter on him, non-basic lands are mountains. So this is a fascinating effect, playing into the idea that at this point, Zhao, by capturing the moon spirit or killing the moon spirit, has altered the world, basically. He affects the way land and energy works. So yeah, he is stopping your non-basic lands from coming in able to be used, and also non-basic lands are now just mountains. So especially for decks that I suppose don't want red, this is a pretty devastating effect. There's probably going to be some frustrating moments when this gets cast and then the Conqueror counter comes onto him. Of just that really is going to mess up what you can do. Now, it is just non-basic lands. I think that's the important thing to remember. Your basic lands are not affected by this effect. So it is mostly a thing for constructed formats, where this as a card in, I guess, standard and other formats, where a lot of your decks won't be primarily basic lands. You will actually be using mostly the non-basic lands. In that case, it does turn off most of your lands in terms of what you want to do. So that's where the frustration is going to come out. For limited and more basic formats, that's not going to do that much. It'll maybe affect the one dual land you have in your deck or whatever. But still, cool card. Tons of flavor on this one here. Very cool card to get a rare as well. There's an extended art of this. I will say maybe moments like this, and like I said about some of the other cards as well, like say Mei and Ty Lee, it would have been cool if there was more of a general full art kind of different art style treatment to just have full art version of some of the characters. And like say like this card, I think it would have been nice to have a different artist come in and do the kind of full art version, and some of the other cards get it. But you know, the one maybe slight missed opportunity, frustration from the set. Next, the last card for red, and finally we get to our Zuko. Because again, we've had a main character for each of the colors, and here is our main red character. So Zuko, Exiled Prince, 4 mana for a 4/3 human noble, uncommon, firebending 3, so nice, and then he has an activated ability, 4/3, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. That's great. I love these firebending cards that have the activated ability for their kind of firebending cost. It just is a really kind of clean card design. You could choose to do that. If you have extra mana, you can do it multiple times, exiling multiple cards off the top of your deck to find what you want. Especially maybe under Sozin's Comet, you might really want to dig deep to really get something big. But you still need the mana to pay for it, but hopefully with a lot of firebending, you can actually get there. Again, like I've been saying maybe across the whole video, it's really all about how firebending works in practice. Like, is your opponent going to really target you for your firebending? How will they approach blocking a lot of that stuff? How will you approach attacking in moments where I could get this mega effect, but I'm not sure combat will go favorably for me if I send in all my creatures at this point in time. So this is maybe where you do need to have those couple of cards there that allow, like, oh, this thing can't be blocked, it clears the way, it taps down your opponent's thing or makes them not unable to block. Those cards might actually be useful. But again, the other stuff you're doing with your spells in red is going to be dealing damage, so that also helps to clear the way. So yeah, I think it's pretty nice. I think it's going to work overall pretty well. And red wouldn't usually be my go-to color in Magic, but actually I'm kind of excited to maybe play some red in the Avatar set. Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing here overall, and especially with like some of the multicolor cards we'll get to later on. I think there's actually some good stuff here. So that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.